less than 25 minutes to defeat Origen. That would be a very strong performance from Schalke. I'm Aaron Medic Chamberlain, joined by Dan Foxdrop Wyatt for the first games of the day today. How you doing, Dan?
I'm very well. I'm looking forward to the games.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's
They're
good.
going to be some bangers.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one,
Potential
actually. Potential upsets.
Well, there's definite upset over there, but outside of that, there are some potential.
So would you count this game as one of your potential upsets?
It could be 100%. Like I think that Origen, they stand a chance. I mean, Schalke are a very good team, but let's not write Origen off just yet.
Okay, and if Origen were to upset Schalke,
Yes.
how would they do that? What is their game plan coming in?
Well, that's a very good question. It depends a lot on the draft, but I think that Origen individually do have some very talented teammates. You know, Nukeduck was very good last year, Kold as well, Alphari, and if these guys can actually just kind of increase their individual performances a little bit, maybe a bit more reliability in there.
So you're saying they need to get good?
No, you said that.
Okay.
I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
I'm not getting in any trouble today. I'm a good boy. But no, I think, you know, especially in that early game, you know, if Kold can unlock his laners, do some things around that, then Origen definitely stand a good chance.
We'll keep our eyes on the jungler for Origen. Already the bans coming out. Schalke on the blue side, Origen on the red. Draven, Cassiopeia removed by Schalke, and Origen have taken away the Akali pick.
I think that the Urgot is going to be, I mean, Urgot's always high priority, but I think both these teams will want to play Urgot, so it just depends whether we'll see Origen as that last ban, because I think Odoamne and Alphari are both good on that champion.
I totally agree with you. It's actually going to be Schalke who ban it out, so not wanting to take that across to Odoamne. There's the Lucian ban as well, so we are starting to sit down towards that sort of second tier of champions, the champion we've seen more this week than in weeks prior. Silas is available.
He is available, has been traditionally run into the Urgot. We saw that twice yesterday, and good old Papa Mithy, the daddy of Korean League of Legends, was saying that Silas is actually picked to run into Urgot specifically. Good lane matchup. Froskurinn also talked a little bit about that, about how it's hard for you to get executed because you've got that good self-sustain. And a very nice ultimate to steal, but obviously Urgot off the board today, so we'll see whether that limits Silas's playability. But even right away, a Lissandra ult, if you want to steal that, that's not a bad one to take either.
Definitely quite an impactful ultimate to have on your side. There's the Kalista. We saw Patrik bring that out just last week. That was one of the games that they won, actually. Last week, I think it's their second game of the week. Alongside that, you usually look at things like Alistar, Thresh to team up in that bottom lane. Morgana can work out pretty well with it as well.
You want a support that you can just throw in there so that you have good synergy with your ulti. And if you're Schalke looking at this draft, the best early game AD carries are off the board here in Draven and Lucian. So I wouldn't be surprised to see something like a Kai'Sa being picked up by Upset. He also loves the Ezreal, so one of those two champions, if they don't pick it, in this phase right here is almost guaranteed to be the two bans from Origen, I would imagine. So I'm expecting to see the Kai'Sa or the Ezreal coming through here. I think both of those champs are good into the Kalista and Alistar as well.
Well, I have to see if Upset does put his priority on towards that Ezreal. Has only played the Ezreal and the Kai'Sa so far this split, so anything else would be an aberration from the norm.
Could be the Ez Time Kench as well. Like, just keep. I mean, Ez doesn't really need that protection as much, so that's why you're. Well, I just don't want to say anything until this, because I really want this to be low to the game.
Keep talking about whatever else you want to talk about.
Ez Time Kench is one of those really powerful duos, and it's very good against heavy engage, and you know, you got Alistar right there, so I think if we were to see that, that would not be a bad choice. As it stands.
Not going to see the Blitzcrank just quite yet. Camille, instead, the lock-in for Memento, teamed up with something like the Lissandra, who can dive that backline. So incredibly powerful. And you can lock up the Kalista a little bit as well, because if you put her in the box, she can't then jump out of it.
Absolutely, and this is now dependent on the rest of Origen's draft to try and protect that Kalista from the Camille. This is patch 9.2, not 9.3, which is live, or you'll be playing at home. Kalista is still a decent jungler. The verdict is still out whether or not she's a good jungler in the next patch, because she did receive a nerf. Yeah. Did I say Kalista?
You did say Kalista.
I did not mean Kalista.
I assumed you meant
Camille. But yeah, Camille, really good. Memento really enjoys playing this champion as well. Great early game pressure too. Going to be answered with that Sejuani for Kold.
I like the Sejuani pick. I think it gives you a relatively beefy front line alongside the Alistar, and then the pick potential from, you know, a Kalista ultimate into a Glacial Prison as well coming out from the Sejuani does work out pretty well.
It's really versatile is what I like about it. You know, you can play it as a initiator and slide into these offensive team cons, but you can also play it as more of like a protector style champion. So I think it is a good jungler just to pick up if, I mean, a one-size-fits-all kind of guy. Go. Brittle's probably a boy.
Oh, you don't know?
That's what I was talking about.
I have no idea. Either way, I was not a vet.
No, you're a doctor, not a vet.
Can't identify the boars agenda, I'm afraid. Gragas is the lock away here from Origen towards IgNar. Gragas, of course, a good matchup into the Alistar in that bottom lane. There's the Syndra ban against Nukeduck as well. Morgana banned against IgNar. And now, I wonder where Schalke will go with this next ban, because you're looking at that mid lane pool and thinking, what's good into Lissandra? What do I want to pinch away?
Yeah, so this is one of those situations where LeBlanc often gets banned here, but you will not see that because Lissandra is so good into LeBlanc that if Origen picked it, it would be... I mean, Nukeduck is Nukeduck, right? He just plays what he wants to play. But you probably won't see it this time around, so Zoe instead is going to be the one taken away. For me, as far as Schalke is concerned, this raises the priority here of the Tahm Kench and the value of that champion being still left up on the board. We might get that blind pick Kennen here. It is going to be blind Kennen. Okay, so... both solo lanes are still available here for Origen, so if they want to flex Kennen, they can. But traditionally, we usually see that in the top side of the map. Yeah,
don't really see Kennen mid that much anymore. I would like the Ryze here from Odoamne. He has played that already. The split, assuming that Lissandra's going to go towards the mid lane. You have quite a bit of attack damage, physical damage in the form of the Ezreal and the Camille as well. So don't have to worry too much about balancing out the damage across the team.
Yeah, but this does mean that the top side of the map is going to be very heavy scaling. And to be honest, even in the bot side when you have Ez, he's looking to get that kind of 2 items before he does something. And the new Ez is pretty good at scaling late game as well with the change to his W. And especially if you go for like that double tier build, when you have the Seraphs and then chucking a Gunblade in there as well. So we might actually see, as we were talking about before the draft went in, how Origen can win this game. If they can, they have good early game tools with the Kalista, with that Sejuani. Once they get to that level 6, if they want to start punishing Schalke on the map, then this is a good team comp to do it to.
Oh, the Yasuo. Bring out the Yasuo as well to round out that composition. So a lot of early damage there. And Yasuo, of course, looking for those 2 items. Phantom Darts at IE is what we tend to see from him. I was very intrigued by the Pyke pick as well from IgNar. We were talking about how the Tahm Kench would be very strong for them, but instead going for something a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, they're just, there were 2 roads to walk down there. Either you want to go the more protective route against the Alistar and good synergy with the Ez in the Tahm Kench or something like that, or I personally prefer this because I think IgNar right now is performing right at the top of the supports. Like I think he's one of the best supports in the EU, and he's really good on these aggressive playmaking champions. Yesterday he played that Blitzcrank, and Pyke has similar mechanics to a Blitz, where you're kind of grabbing people and you're going for that aggressive play style. So we'll see whether IgNar, great success yesterday, whether he can do it again this week.
I think the mentality behind Pyke and Blitz is very similar. You're trying to anticipate dodges, you're looking to see if you can land those hooks, as you say, and then trying to catch people out of position. I want to talk a little bit about compositional strengths. We talked about level 6 coming out from Origen, the power that they have when they hit that mark and how they want to play around the early game. Schalke, a little bit more scaling, but are Schalke going to be able to mitigate that early game weakness?
Well, that's why you pick the Camille, and this is what I think is really important if you're going to have scaling in your lanes, is you want to have a strong early jungler, because then you want to at least be able to have someone who's able to stabilize on the map. We have seen some team comps in the past where if you don't have that early jungle strength and you have losing lanes, you kind of just roll over and die in the current meta, and you absolutely don't want to do that because that loses you League of Legends games, which surprisingly isn't good. So this Camille, he can basically go anywhere. Like it's if he wants to gank that Ryze with the Rune Prison setup, that you can go mid lane with setup there. You can go bot lane with the Pyke setup. So there's different things that that Memento can do, and we did talk about scaling being important, but it's not like Schalke are like just completely awful until 30 minutes.
They still have some power in the early game. You talk a lot about how Memento's there to kind of mitigate the weakness in the early game from Schalke. What are we looking at Kold to do then? How is he going to actually be able to utilize his team's early strength?
Well, early on, you just want to make sure that Camille isn't like level 2 taking over the game. So we'll see that a lot of that in the vision and the pathing from Kold where he decides to start. Because in the actual 1v1, Sejuani isn't really that bad this early. Camille isn't known necessarily to just run at the enemy jungler and just completely take them down. There are some champions like that in the current meta that Sejuani absolutely will want to avoid, like the Zinzaos, the Kazakhs. But Camille isn't really one of those. So Kold, if he can spot out Memento, get to that level 6 point, then he will have that advantage. And then, once we reach that point, you can look for like first glacial prison on the map to be really impactful. And again, this is what's so cool about this game, is you're not limited to where you can go. You can go anywhere you want in this game.
Any map, any lane is gankable. We talked a lot about the Analyst desk talked a lot about the top lane matchup. Odoamne, who's had a very good start to the split against Alphari, who kind of struggled, but definitely had a stronger performance yesterday. And I think your eyes have to go up there, right? You're playing a Ryze into Kennen matchup. It feels like it should be explosive. There's a lot of lightning going on up there as well. Some spaghetti being thrown. I really want some action to happen on the top side of the map, mostly because I just like action happening anyway. Amazing blows, a kiss to the fans. I feel it was directed at me.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've been able to talk with Amazing.
I overheard him say that was deliberately aimed at you.
Ah. Thank you, Mr. Schnuckensteiner. Let's get into the game. Schalke versus Origen, first game of the day. And it's going to be a doozy. Schalke sitting pretty at the top of the standings, just one win behind G2.
6-1 is not too shabby considering they imploded their roster in the off-season. Upset the only returning member from last year's Schalke, which, honestly, even though they didn't go to Worlds, had a lot of success. They made the summer finals. They you know, there's definitely big shoes for them to fill, and so far they're absolutely filling them. As we're getting this level 1 Alphari here, scouting out that tribe of Schalke, they have a plan. They know what's up here.
IgNar has the hook, so he's waiting in the Baron pit.
Oh,
looking
boy.
for it. Bone Skewer comes out, pulls Alphari back. Abbedagge gets the slow. Memento jumps in, but Alphari flashes away. And it's a good escape from Alphari, but incredible level 1 mindfulness from Schalke.
And that is the flash down from Kennen, which is very important when you're playing versus Camille. You want to have that flash because those early ganks, very, very powerful, very, very impactful. So gonna have to be careful. That was great. Did you see that water energy? They went down at exactly the same time. Frame perfect. Oof. It's not bad.
Yeah, as long as you're not doing it with your teammates. That's what I always have happening in bot lane.
But 2 wards equals a pink ward. Did you know that?
Oh, is that how it works?
Yeah.
I didn't
mean,
realize.
Theoretically. In practice, it doesn't.
No.
Theoretically, it doesn't either. But, you know, we can say these things to make ourselves feel better about them.
That's true. And my warding is so bad that I need to make myself feel better about it. I want to talk a little bit about lane priority and pushing lanes, because often when we discuss scaling, you tend to think that that lane's going to get pushed back and actually the enemy jungler is going to be able to invade. But looking at it, Abbedagge should be able to push up the mid lane. Top lane should be pretty much in Odoamne's favor now that that flash is burnt as well.
Yeah, honestly, the only lane that Schalke shouldn't be pushing that hard in is the bot lane. Because Pyke and Ez, especially early on before Ez gets that tier, and with Pyke being a melee champion, the only real threat that he has at this point is the threat to kill someone. And that's not to say that that is a limited threat, it's just that you're not going to be mindlessly pushing the minion wave down. And Origen already giving a lot of respect over to Schalke in these lanes, and we'll see whether the presence of Kold will be able to turn these ones around. And you know, you really do want to have a Kalista be able to use this early game and to translate it into something in the mid, because she isn't as good at scaling. She's not going to be as good going into the late game as Ezreal pick will be.
And you see how important it is to keep track of the enemy junglers. IgNar actually leaving the lane, coming up here, checking both the blue and the Gromp to find exact timers on where Kold is likely to be on the map. They sacrifice a little bit of pressure in the lane, but IgNar comes back. And Ezreal is such a safe AD carry that you can do this pretty easily as a support.
And Upset is probably the best Ezreal in the LEC.
Yep.
It feels like he gets this champion a lot, considering just how good he is on it, and how Ez is arguably just one of the best AD carries just from a pure strength standpoint. So it's like you got a strong pick on someone who really knows how to play it, and you know you're gonna have a situation where, surprise, surprise, he's gonna perform well on it. So there is something while we go into a cheeky little pause here.
Yeah, we just need to adjust the lights. I believe there's some glare on someone's screen, so we'll get that sorted out in just a second for these guys.
While those lights are getting looked at, how about we take a look at more of this bot lane, specifically the summoner spells?
Yeah, I really wanted to bring attention to this actually, because there's teleport on Ezreal, both supports playing Ignite, but you've got the heal on the Kalista, so a slight disparity there. Slight
disparity, and it means that if any all-ins happen, the advantage 100% over to Origen. However, if the all-in doesn't actually happen, you're much more likely to be able to have lane control, because you can get more favorable recalls and resets if you have that teleport, and you can utilize that teleport, and you can, you know, just push a wave out, go back to base, buy your tier early, for example, and then get straight back into lane and not skip a beat.
That's the big thing with Ezreal, isn't it? You want the back timing either for the Sheen or for the tier, and then you can really take control of the lane, get scaling up, really just have a dominant laning phase, considering the fact that he is not the strongest early game champion in the game. But we are back on into the action, lights adjusted, everything sorted for these guys.
Does need a little bit of revving up as we're watching these guys. Origen playing under their tower currently here, which is not really where they want to be. But a lot of it, honestly, is, at least at this stage of the game, a lot of it just comes down to Mithy, and if you can catch a cheeky little headbutt pulverize or... nope, that's not the one. Yeah, it is the one.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. That's weird. But outside of that, I really just think level 6 is going to be the point where real things happen, because then you do have the Kalista set up. You do have the Sejuani if Kold wants to come down as well. And before then, we might just see a little bit more of a kind of timid lane phase.
It's always hard to headbutt pulverizer into a Pyke as well, because he has the bone skewer that will pull you out of it. And if you go too far in, he then uses his E, goes water dive, jumps away, and just gets the Phantom Undertow, and then gets the stun on you. So can be quite difficult to play that lane as an Alistar early on. In the top lane, actually evened out quite a bit. Alphari hasn't really been punished for losing his flash in the early game. It's about a 4-5 CS differential, but nothing too major. Interestingly, Alphari not running the Kleptomancy himself. Looks like Memento's going towards the mid lane for the first gank of the game. Nukeduck goes in, Abbedagge locks him up, there's the cleanse, but Memento is here. Nukeduck just dodging through them, gets the knock up with a tornado. Should be able to get away. Good escape there from Nukeduck, only burns the cleanse.
Only burns the cleanse, which does have a pretty low cooldown, so not too bad there from Norwegian mid laner. Able to kind of get away with that one, you have to think, considering he had no one around him to help him, and just generally walks away from the gank, so good start for Origen.
If I were trading a little bit on towards Odoamne here, but nothing too much happening. We have seen Upset get that back time and teleported back into the lane now with a Sheen. IgNar coming up towards the mid lane because Kold has joined up with Nukeduck. And IgNar will spot Kold out here. Ping's coming out, teleport as well. Memento on his way across. Actually stops the back timer of Nukeduck. Kold jumps across, there's the bone skewer, pulls him back. Memento on his way down here. Phantom Undertow flashed away by Kold. And that is the Summoner spell burned, but once again, no one actually goes down.
Very important flash there by Kold. If he gets stunned, he will get comboed and he will most likely give away first blood. One of the mistakes that you see a lot in solo queue is people use their flash to escape danger rather than prevent danger, and that is the example of why exactly you want to use it to prevent the danger. But really all this comes down to is the fact that Upset and IgNar are not playing constantly under their tower, and they're able to have this lane pressure because that enables IgNar to leave the lane.
Kold's down here. Spotted on a ward, Mithy looking for the knockup. IgNar there gets the stun onto Patrik, but now Kold is in the right place at the right time. Bone skewer comes back out. Mithy looking for the stun. Memento has to flash away, and Patrik and Kold doing quite a lot of work on that Schalke bottom lane.
That is flash of IgNar, flash from Memento, 2 summoners apiece, but flash is arguably more important when you have the catch potential that Origen have.
That's what you're looking for now, right? You talked about the level 6, we're level 5 across the board, apart from Alphari and Nukeduck, so what we'll start to see is probably a back timer now, get that first part of an item, and then build up towards a repeat bottom lane gank onto IgNar if you can get it.
And this time as well is quite important for Kold to show in that bot side, because Patrik really wants to recall. Because don't forget, the fact that he has heal and Upset has that teleport, Upset's already had a recall, he's already had a base, he's got that Sheen, which means that unless Patrik can get a good recall here, he's going to be playing at an item disadvantage, which obviously you don't want to do because that sets you behind. So they get that gank, which enables them to just push the minion wave in, get a good reset for Patrik, and he's bought his Berserker Greaves and a longsword, probably going into that Blade King.
Unable to quite find the connection there in the middle lane, but
Flash again.
Abbedagge had to burn his flash, as you say, yeah, and this is good from Origen. The thing we wanted from them was early game pressure, try and play around the level 6, they're almost there, and if you can then accelerate the game from there, that's when you start looking at can Origen take down Schalke. Well,
this is it. Well, the next minute, 2 minutes is going to be really important, and Kold right now is kind of on the hot seat because there are 3 flashes down on Schalke, 2 of those coming from laners. And so Kold is now going to ask himself, all right, I need to capitalize on this. We've got to punish this. Schalke is a team that plays very intelligently, and they're extremely good going into the mid and late game. I believe Froskurinn even pegs them as the best team fighting team in Europe.
Yep.
So you don't really want to take it that late. So this is it. This is your window here. See if you can use those flashes. See if you can set up with your teammates. Don't forget Patrik now has hit that level 6. We're talking about that as well. And we might just see something going down soon.
No monumental gold lead between the 2 teams. Always interesting to point out, Upset on the Ezreal has Kleptomancy. It's about 200 gold ahead or so, which isn't absolutely massive, but it's still, you know, it's something in your back pocket. Every little helps.
Every little helps. And that's why you often see Kennen top take their Kleptomancy as well. Not this game, but just Klepto in general. It's you sacrifice the strength of having a keystone in order to get a little bit more gold in the lane phase.
So Nukeduck's going to get a bit of damage onto Abbedagge here. Kold is actually going to come across, looking for that Glacial Prism, but the path comes out from Abbedagge. And I want to just highlight the vision that Origen have started to establish for themselves. There's control ward in here. There's control ward in that picture bush. If we bring it down, there's a control ward even further down as well. This is trying to open up that bottom side of the map for Kold. This is where he should be looking for ganks now.
Yep, and still that flash down IgNar. So he kind of a slippery target because you do have Phantom Undertow?
Phantom Undertow, yeah.
Beautiful stuff. You do have that ability where it just slithers away from you and then it goes into stealth and gets that huge move speed increase. But it's very hard to run away from a Glacial Prison, a Pulverize,
yep.
the knockup from Kalista. Like, it doesn't matter how slippery you are, if you get caught and you have no flash, you will fall down. And here he is. He's snaking his way into that bot lane.
Snaking it down there.
Ooh.
Memento here as well. Maybe Origen can go for something a little bit further, but they're not so far ahead that they can take a disadvantageous engage.
Right, but if they get the jump, then they will come out ahead. And if Memento is here, again, he has no flash either. He has his hookshot, so that is his way to disengage. But again, if you lock someone down, then he's not exactly the tankiest champion in the game, especially right now where he has 0 defensive items. Later on, we'll be picking up that Sterix most likely, and maybe the Guardian Angel, but in this early game, very vulnerable, and Origen not able to find themselves the kill, but they will translate this pressure that they're able to get themselves this vision advantage into an objective in that bot side in that cloud of dragon.
Schalke ceding any control over that bottom side river. The Cloud Dragon goes over to Origen. Not the dragon you really want, but a little bit of extra movement speed, especially when you're looking at an Alice to engage potential, does help out.
I think Kennen plus Cloud is really underrated combo, because you already have the Lightning Rush, and then you just have a little bit more move speed, and it all comes down to whether you can just get on top of a team and stay on top of a team with your ultimate down as Kennen. We kind of saw that actually yesterday when Werlib and SK, he picked that Kennen and wasn't really able to find any great Kennen ultis, and a lot of that just comes down to if people get out of the ring, out of the maelstrom, then what you got?
Exactly.
Nothing. So Cloud helps with a little bit of that, and we'll see as well as the game goes on how Yasuo can utilize that against the Ryze if they decide to match those two up against each other in that split push.
Pretty even across the board for these two teams. We said that we wanted to see a little bit more out of Origen around the level 6 mark. Haven't really seen them totally utilize their advantage or their ability advantage at the level 6, but now we do see IgNar getting in towards this side of the jungle. Memento here as well with a hookshot, doesn't land it, but there is the Hexagon Ultimatum. Ignite coming down as well, and Nukeduck with the cleanse flash away. Engage in the bottom lanes, upset, jumped on by Mithy, stunned up, easy enough kill for Patrik, he rends him down. It's all off the back of Nukeduck making a great play in the mid lane and surviving.
And that is the punishment from Schalke of sending IgNar away from Upset. IgNar goes for that dive in the mid lane, is unsuccessful, but it leaves Upset extremely vulnerable by himself in that bot lane, and he's not able to keep himself safe, and Origen punish him for it.
Abbedagge now on the wrong side of the rift, caught in this blue side jungle. Nukeduck on his way across as well. The Glacial Path will get Abbedagge underneath the towers, maybe looking for the execute here. Not sure if he's taken any damage yet. Takes 3 tower shots, but Nukeduck's still on the chase. Does have to be a little bit cautious. Abbedagge pops the blast cone.
Was that his only way out?
Yeah, that's not how you get out of that. Last breath comes out. Bronobelt still just running away, but eventually Nukeduck gets the kill. And Origen, 12 minutes in, 2-0 up, and with 1,000 gold lead as well.
And most importantly, the 2 kills here are on the mid laner and the AD carry. So let's watch this again in the bot side of the map. Upset is by himself, playing really far forward, getting greedy for that CS. But the catch potential here from Origen
disgusting.
with that Kalista ulti plus Alistar combo, I mean, it's an Ez, right? He stands really far away to last hit with Q. He's got his jump, he had his flash, and he still can't survive. Like, yeah, I mean, that is a pretty sick combo coming through from Origen, and they're rewarded with a kill onto their Kalista. Very important one.
And then Abbedagge, I think, just went too far after going for that mid lane dive and was caught out. Good flank from Mithy, because he came up from the bottom lane to actually catch the Schalke mid laner out of position. Memento looking to steal away this red, we'll get it. That's a little bit of an advantage for him, but nothing too miraculous. And now that Origen have sort of stepped on the gas a little bit, I want to see them keep doing it.
Yeah,
they've got to keep making the same play.
They have to keep going, and right now lane phase doesn't look like it's going to end particularly anytime soon. Sometimes you see teams go for a lane swap in the top side just as a surprise, go for a gank, and then maybe go for that first bar tower. But that usually only happens if you think you're in a good position to get the plates, or, like I mentioned, actually kill the tower itself. So right now we probably won't be seeing much of that. But having said that, IgNar is roaming to the mid lane. upset as well is also leaving bot as well. So has he learned his lesson, or is he going for a cheeky little roam?
There's still no summoners on Nukeduck, right? So you can look for that gank in the mid lane, especially since Abbedagge has the ult and has the flash. But you look at the vision control still for Origen around this mid lane, totally covered. Right? Control ward here, ward across the wall, go down to the bottom side as well. Control ward here, ward across the wall. Like, they know that Nukeduck could be targeted out, and actually the fight is happening in the top side of the map. Kold misses the Glacial Prison.
Yeah, and that's a big one to lose in the early stages of the game right here. That is a high impact ultimate you definitely don't want to waste. IgNar here is sniffing about.
It's danger pings.
Yeah, he's suspicious.
Oh, Alphari can get this. Yeah, Slicing Maelstrom just comes out. Odoamne stunned up for a year. Flashes away.
Memento.
Alphari doesn't have the chase potential because Memento, as you say, was on his way up. Alphari not wanting to chase into that fog of war. But I do actually like bringing the Kalista up here. If you can, alongside the Yasuo. So they move Kalista to mid, because you can secure the Rift Herald. Mithy jumps in. Very brave move from him, but the Alistar does do a lot of damage. And going down, Mithy secures it. Supports all combat. Abbedagge actually locked up as well. Just gets away with the glacial path. And this is good from Origen. They keep upping the tempo. They've moved their AD carry down towards this middle lane. And Upset Ignite actually might have enough damage to take the first tower of the game if we don't see a bit more proactivity from Origen.
But Herald will most likely go down as well here for Origen, so at the very least, they will most likely trade towers at this point. And Origen are happy with doing this. You know, they got that kill. The downside to this is that Mithy used both summoners, and it was a pure solo kill. No assist for anyone else on the squad. And with Kold picking up this Herald here, we're going to get a cheeky little reset, and then we'll see as a team, do they group up and use this Herald somewhere? Or are they just going to go and perhaps, similar to what happened last time, stick someone in that mid lane and go for a multiple lane threat?
Here you see Alphari going for the flash slicing Maelstrom play. Thought he could take Odoamne down quickly enough, but you can't go into Fog of War if you don't have the vision. And Mithy's like, okay, I've got you, Alphari.
Headbutts to the minion here. Nope, just flashes in.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he'd headbutt and then Q flash.
That is a cool combo.
But nah.
Yeah, you don't have to do it. Oh, Abbedagge actually took a bit of damage as he teleported away, but not so much that it cost him his life.
That was extremely close with him being able to reactivate that glacial path. He almost just got comboed down there and locked down, and he would have died too. We did see the mid lane fall here. Origen able to break that one, take that one down and break open the map. So mid lane is always the most important tower you want to take down because it is obviously in the center of the map. Oh, there's a Herald.
Memento's going to go for it. Oh, he cancels channel. He gets it. I believe with the Hexagon made him, he stops it because it silences you for a second. Memento gets into the realm. Are they going to lock him up in time? They get the stun off. That's one. Maybe they even go for the dive because Glacial Prison hits. And Odoamne not long for the rift. Double kill across towards Nukeduck.
And that is the power of the Yasuo pick, and Nukeduck especially is a very good Yasuo player, but you have the strength in that 2v2. This is the versatility as well of the Sejuani. Not just about the protections and the engages, but also very good at just doing standard jungle stuff, like fighting enemy teams. So really strong 2v2, gets 2 kills. You know what, I think that also lightens it up a little bit as far as Origen, the sadness that Origen feeling about losing the Herald.
Yeah.
Getting 2 kills and probably
you're going to
take
get the tower anyway. Right? Like
exactly. I think that makes it a little bit easier.
And it's always about Kold playing around the vision there, right? He's on a control ward as he comes in. Yes, he puts the Rift Tower down and Memento spots him, but then the ability to react, the ability to get there quickly and get the kill is just absolutely paramount for Origen.
So this is a really interesting interaction. I don't know whether we're going to get a replay and see this at all, but what happened with the Rift Herald? Because I didn't know. They missed the E, right? Memento missed his hook shot, which is the CC. You need hard CC to break the Herald.
So Hextech Ultimatum,
does it silence you?
As far as I know, when it's cast, silences you for a split second.
That's
crazy.
Which
is why it cancels the Rift Herald.
Interesting. I mean, if that is the case, then yeah, that explains it. If not, then Kold just cancelled it by himself.
I mean, if you keep talking for a second,
I can
make sure that's the case.
I'm good at talking rubbish, mate. That's what I'm here for, so I can definitely fill some time. Either way, if this Herald gets put down or doesn't get put down, Origen are most likely going to get this tower here. They win the 2v2, and they get 2 kills over to Nukeduck as well. So something that goes a little bit understated when you look at the scoreboard is how many kills does this team have, how many kills does that team has. You can see a number, it might be bigger than the other one, but most importantly is who has the kills? Where do those kills go over to? And as far as Origen is concerned right now, those kills are on their perfect targets. We saw Patrik get a kill earlier on into the game. We saw Nukeduck get one earlier, and now he's just got even more. So they're set up to be in a really, really good position here, especially when they're running it into Schalke's team comp of that Ryze split push. If you want to have Nukeduck beat him, then having him have 3 kills, you know what? I think that's pretty decent.
It definitely works out
Not
pretty
bad.
well for you. And now, of course, I explored my mind palace, my knowledge dungeon that I have in my head.
Yes.
And it cancels channels. Cancels channels. And
Really?
Rift Herald is a channeled ability.
Yeah.
That's what happens. So Memento,
Channeling.
notice this here. You can see the channeling doesn't hit the E. And then it's like, oh, I'm a little bit short. Hextech Ultimatum cancels the channel.
It says silence for a split second above Cold's nameplate there. So yeah, that's what happens. Mystery solved. Need Detective Medius here for that one.
We call him Plagueis at the moment because he's still sick. But so right there, it looks like the stun lands just before the Realm Warp comes out, which is why we don't see the follow-up. But we will just make sure that everything was A-OK with those interactions before we get on further in the game. I want to talk a little bit about some of the expectations we set up for these teams in picks and bans. Because we talked about Origen, we said they're a level 6 comp, or they're an ultimate-based comp, and they played well around that. You know, we're seeing them 5 kills up at the moment, about 1,000 gold lead. But where do they go next? What's the next invention, next step for them?
Well, I think if you'd asked me that question like 30 seconds ago, game time, then it would have been a different answer to what I'm going to say now, which is Nukeduck now has become a huge win condition for your team. Because you can just sit him in the side lane, and who is going to match him, who is going to beat him at this point? Lissandra is much more of a team player as the game goes on. Very strong champion, which is why she's such high priority in draft very often. But she's not going to be able to 1v1 Nukeduck. Nukeduck is going to have opponent pressure against her. And Ryze is much more of the silo champion that you want to stick in that side lane, that you want to have match the split push, that you want to have like just pushing minion waves down and going up against strong enemy split pushes. But again, if Ryze is sitting at 0-1-0 and Nukeduck is here sitting at 3-0, let's not forget, last thing, then you can talk, mate.
Okay.
He can itemize very efficiently into a Hexdrinker if he fancies it. Or like Merchants or whatever he wants to do. I mean, he's already got his secondary, so ignore that one. But if you have AP mid and AP top, then that's good enough justification.
And it gets the Ezreal as well. Like, Ezreal does magic damage as well. So it works across the board. Currently sitting at the Phantom Dancer and a pickaxe. Expect him to go back and get BF still towards that Infinity Edge. I just want to inform you guys about the pause. The referees were investigating a issue related to the Realm Warp. They've determined it's normal behavior, and we should be getting back on into the game in just a second. So hopefully we'll be jumping back on into the action. Okay, so we've talked about Origen. We talked about the fact they can split push now with Nukeduck. Great stuff. Good stuff, Origen. Schalke, on the other hand, usually a much stronger early game team than this, have seemed to struggle a little bit at shutting down Origen's plays. Where do they go next?
Well, even when Schalke were winning games, I think on average their goal difference of 15 is not even 1,000. It's not that high. It's not that significant. They're very good at like 20 minutes plus, and that's where they win their games. They set themselves up in that early game. They don't explode and they don't take over the game in the early, but they're still they set themselves up to have success later on. Okay. So at this point, Schalke is not used to being 2,000 goal behind, but you can't write them out just because, firstly, the caliber of the team. It's a very good team. And secondly, their picks are good as the game goes on. So upset on this Ezreal, we look to him to be the one to kind of put the team on his back in this game and for Schalke to play around that.
And we'll keep our eyes on Upset's Ezreal, wearing the footballer skin, which I think is only an apt considering he plays for Schalke 04.
Actually, it does look very Schalke, doesn't it?
This is the Schalke skin, okay?
Yeah.
They may never win Worlds, but Upset's like, I've got my own skin already, guys.
You're setting their expectations very... Don't
I said May. I said May. Give me some credit here. G2 may never win Worlds, but we all know they're winning this year. It's in Europe. Paris for the finals. G2 taking it home. Or Schalke, obviously. G2 Schalke finals.
What a story Fnatic won it, though.
That would be an incredible story. That would be an incredible story. Okay, so we know that Schalke needs to scale just a little bit more. We're sitting at Seraph's, building up on Odoamne. Proto Belt into looks to be a Zhonya's for Abbedagge. 2 items on the Ezreal, which is always good. But soon you'll start to see Patrik get towards that Ginsu. Soon you'll see an Infinity Edge from Nukeduck as well. And if Origen can just keep up the tempo, keep up the pace, maybe look for a play around the Ocean Dragon or around the Baron in a couple of minutes, you have to think they're in a very good position to succeed.
And this is the thing, is that for Origen, they're going to look to pick up all of these objectives, especially those dragons. And if Schalke wants to contest, obviously they then have to walk up to Origen.
Catch is cold, but maybe not how we wanted to catch him. Odoamne almost killed by Nukeduck. Nukeduck flashes forward for it. IgNar now underneath the tower, but Mithy can just tank that one up for days. It's a very dead Pyke. Origen 7 kills to 0 up. Absolutely decimating Schalke 04.
And we mentioned it, Nukeduck at this point is just too strong. Odoamne is not able to go up 1v1, not able to go toe-to-toe, and Nukeduck actually basically picked up a solo kill there. In fact, it was better than a solo kill because IgNar tried to stop him, and he couldn't.
Yeah.
Origen swarming their way in as well on the back of that to pick up that second kill, and it's just like, this is now really hard. If you're Schalke, this is actually really tough because these fights aren't really meant to happen yet. They're meant to happen around like the Baron area or the Dragons or whatever you want to contest. And Origen's meant to be able to find the windows and just get like a good team fight engage with the Kalista ulti or the Kennen TP flank or something like that. Honestly, this is what Origen wants to happen, but Schalke are just opening the door and saying, oh yeah, please come in. Oh, you got dirty boots. So that doesn't matter. Keep your shoes on.
Tread the mud through the carpet.
That's fine. It's not happening for him.
No. No, they're struggling a lot, and I think a lot of that has to come off, you know, those couple of bad plays up towards the top lane. Very good ganks, of course, from Origen, but what we've seen from Origen here is the combination of Kold and Nukeduck can be absolutely devastating, right? Yeah. This is what we expected from them at the start of the split, and they're starting to step into their own. You have to remember, like, coming in today, everyone's putting Schalke up there just beneath G2. For Origen to come out with such a clean performance so far, that is a very good sign for them as a team and as an organization.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Origen looking to get into playoffs, if we can use the P word in week 4.
You can use the P word.
Then, I mean, this isn't even a team that you necessarily need to beat. Yeah. You don't have to beat one of the top 2 teams in the league. You just
beat the teams below you.
Yeah, exactly. Beat the teams below you and the people who might be looking to squeeze into those playoff spots. But so if they can pick up a team winning against Schalke, I mean, for me, that just completely kind of throws up in the air just how good are Origen, because individually we know they're very talented players. Just the names themselves like speak volumes. They haven't been able to find it so far in the LEC, and you know this could be that turnaround point for them.
It definitely could. So 20 minutes in, 4,000 gold lead for Origen. It actually looks like it's QSS second for Patrik here, so just trying to give himself a little bit more safety. Nukeduck, of course, the key carry for that Origen lineup, but Schalke have been able to slow down the game just a tad. Obviously, very hard to break into that tier 2 of turrets, so Origen will need to set up strong vision, push forward a little bit, reset, then set up the vision again before they can really make any more plays.
Yeah, and Naren Basher, big purple worm over here, is obviously going to be the key ticket for Origen to be able to break into the base of Schalke.
There's a blast cone there. Alphari trying to get away. The flash in, Hexagol made him. Alphari caught out. Doesn't have a stopwatch, has the Ryze with the slow, but Alphari is done. Dunked by IgNar. Schalke find a pick.
There's a very late flash there by Alphari, who didn't respect the Memento kind of chain CC there, where he comes flying in from 1,000 miles away, and then hookshot, flash, ultimate, and you're locked down and you're screwed. So Alphari needs to flash a little bit early there, but still good pick from Schalke. That is the power of that Camille pick especially. And we'll see, like this, honestly right now all that does is just kind of pauses what Origen wanted to do.
Yep.
Schalke's need a lot more to find success in this game. But you know, if you want to take the game to late because you're really not doing very well right now, then those are the kind of plays you need to look for.
It's like battlefield medicine. All you want to do is pause the bleeding until you can get back somewhere safe. And as soon as you're back somewhere safe, that's when you can look to try and revitalize the patient and bring them back.
Well, there you go. Was that your expertise?
No, I was orthopedics and pediatrics, so bones and children. Yeah, it was good fun actually. The things you can do to children's bones are actually incredible. Like you can make children taller by breaking their bones and just splitting them apart, and then they just grow. It's amazing.
Well, okay. Well, you're not a doctor anymore, and I'm starting to see why every day. Let's go back to the.
That's actual medicine, okay?
The way you put it did not sound very.
It's actual medicine.
Whatever. Let's move on, shall we?
Okay.
League of Legends video game. That's what we're casting right now. I think, at least.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, right. I think this is a bit of a lull in the game because it's the what's the best word to describe this? Boring is completely not the right word for it, okay? But it's the more behind the scenes kind of like methodical setting up. Yeah,
it's the preparation portion of the game.
Yeah, exactly. This is the preparation for Origen where they're thinking, okay, let's get the side waves in a good position. Let's see if Schalke like give us anything if they make a mistake, because that would be great. It wouldn't be the first time this game that Schalke had done that. So let's get the side waves in a good position here. Let's leverage this advantage that we've gotten over the enemy team. And the fact that we are such a good teamfight comp as well, if we do find someone, you know, we get that Mithy engage, we get that follow-up from Alphari, although he's in topside without his TP. But in theory, you know...
Oh, I love this. Kold actually baiting for IgNar there. They knew there was a ward in the bush, and they just didn't clear it out to make Schalke think they were safe. Kold steps up, IgNar lands the hook, gets away. But I really like the idea from Origen.
But again, Pyke is an extremely slippery champion. If IgNar was playing his Blitzcrank here, then that would have been a very easy kill. But Kold probably should have thrown out his ultimate there just to lock down the Pyke, but either way, just going to walk away from that one, and Alphari chasing down Abbedagge. The rest of his team is on the way, and we'll see whether or not... There it is!
Turns it straight on towards IgNar with the Glacial Prison. That's a dead Pyke. Memento chased away as well, and now Origen probably just going to turn their eyes towards the blue buff, set up vision around the Baron as well.
And now this is extremely difficult, because let's not forget that even though your support is arguably your weakest member as far as individual strength goes, he is your primary warder. So how do you get vision in this situation when your ward bot is dead? It's very difficult to do so.
2 teleports coming in from Schalke. Memento jumps towards the back of the pit, but the slicing maelstrom locks him up. Baron already down, secured. Memento falls as well. Abbedagge goes into the glacial tomb, and we'll get locked up. Kold just going to chase him across the wall here, looking for that blast cone knock away. Patrik can't quite find the jump, and Abbedagge will escape. They don't really care about him. They have the Baron. That's all they need. They'll let the Lissandra escape for the time being.
And this is exactly it. Origen, if they're looking to accelerate this game right here and end it before Schalke comes online, then they need to take this Baron and they need to use this to break into the enemy base. That's what they've got. Let's see if we can do it. We're jumping into the replay here of how this pick happened in the first place. It's almost a rinse and repeat of what Origen were trying to do in the bot side of the map. But this time around, Kold actually uses his ultimate as the primary engage here. And whereas Pyke is a very slippery champion, if he can't block his aftershock because he's stunned down and he can't use his abilities, then he's very easy to kill. And the rest of this is just Schalke thinking, you know what? We don't want to give away this Baron.
Yeah.
It's bad if the enemy team gets Baron. That was
really bad.
That was the correct thought. But what actually happened was not the correct execution.
Try to go into a Baron when you don't have vision, because Origen have taken it away pretty well.
Rock and a hard place.
Yeah, definitely a very difficult situation to be in, and Origen have forced Schalke back time and time again. Look at how strong they are at the moment. 3 items on the Yasuo. You've got a 2-0-2 Sejuani with the Gargoyles. You've got Ginsu's finished on Kalista as well. Origen are putting on a clinic right now.
Yeah, Origen are just looking night and day, really, from the criticisms we had of them earlier on into the split. And this is a team, you know, that maybe takes a little bit while to gel. We can't all be the well, probably can't say that anymore, can I? But you can't all be teams that implode the roster and then come together anew and just instantly click. And what I'm really impressed by this game especially is Kold was able to set up Nukeduck, and Nukeduck has just proven why we kind of killed the whole year of the duck meme last year. Because he is a very good player, you know. When he's on form, he's a top 3 mid in EU.
Yep.
And Origen have picked up this guy. Hasn't quite been able to step back to grow into his own skin yet. And in this game, he's on a high agency pick and he's making it happen.
Definitely is. I think Alphari has to be mentioned as well. We talked about the top lane matchup. It hasn't really played out Alphari into Odo. It's more been Odo into Nukeduck this game, but still had a much more consistent performance than he had in weeks 1 through 3. Looking much more like the Alphari we know of old. Now, Inhibitor Tower target in the mid lane. Glacial Prison lands once again onto IgNar, just forcing him away. Mithy underneath the tower, but already that's fallen, puts at the wind wall just to block out any Schalke aggression. Mithy with the engage. Last breath comes out, and Memento is down. Great stuff from Origen once again to find the pick, and now they can just push towards this Inhibitor. Need to be a little bit defensive because you still have the Frozen Tomb. You still have the pick potential of a death from below. Nukeduck clearing out the wards now, clearing out the minions in this bottom lane. Patrik going in, there's the Fate's Call. Just pushes Schalke back once again, and Origen will open up that second Inhibitor Tower alongside the Inhibitor.
This is extremely smart play by Origen. They're not over-forcing their hand here. They're throwing out ultimates using cooldowns, but not dedicating where they don't need to, just to zone away Schalke so that they can take what they want, which isn't Schalke's life bars, it's the inhibitors in the base, and they're able to achieve that. Patrik, oh no, he's definitely...
What is it with blast cones in the LEC? Like, what is it? We saw it yesterday with Noskera knocking Chachi into the pit. We saw it last week with Kobe getting killed by one.
G2XL, remember that one?
G2XL. Oh, there's something about the blast cone.
Just very spicy cones.
It's fine though. Patrik survives. Doesn't put him too out of position, and Origen reset. 4 dragons in their back pockets. A monumental 7,500 gold lead as well.
And what this does as well by picking up 4 dragons is it gives you another win condition if the game does go later on, which is where we said before, where Schalke would want the game to go. Now you can just pick up Dragon, and you've got 4 dragons already, and it's just like, yeah, this is really tough now for Schalke. And I think going into this game, the expectations were that Schalke would just pick it up.
Yep.
You know, that we would see Deficio cry in backstage, and Quickshot would be happy.
Well, but Deficio will be the only one laughing after this, because every single caster and analyst and Twitter and StatSpot predicted that Schalke would win.
Ooh.
It's the curse of the StatSpot.
What do we know?
Not much. I'm sitting at 22 predictions, so I really don't know that much. Realm Warp coming in here. Trying to catch Nukeduck out. Oh! Memento with the flash chase, has the Hexagon made him will put Nukeduck in the box. IgNar there as well, but Upset has to jump across the wall to follow up. Nukeduck almost takes down one, but the death from below will secure him. However, what have you lost for it? Inhibitor Tower is going to go down in this top lane as Schalke retreat. Teleport's coming in. Upset trying to join the fight. There is the inhibitor, but they're not going to go for it completely. Glacial Prism lands just to distract Abbedagge, so he cannot jump on towards that Origen backline.
Origen need to back away from this one. They have lost Nukeduck, who is their primary carry so far. Schalke, if they want to take this one, it's 4v5.
It's the perfect time to fight. Mithy didn't really want to back away. He was running back in, as you said, they wanted to retreat. IgNar misses the hook. Mithy gets a jump onto Odoamne. Kold there as well. Alphari still has the Odoamne if he wants to go in. Looking for it. There's the lightning rush. Hasn't used the ult yet, though. Abbedagge pops the Frozen 2. Mithy gets one. That's Odoamne down. Now Alphari jumps forward with the proto belt. And Memento falls as well. And Upset's trying to do what he can on the back line, but he gets locked up in the slicing maelstrom. IgNar jumps back towards the bound. Inhibitor falls. And Origen are knocking on the door of Schalke's base.
This was the best chance for Schalke to turn this game around and win a team fight, and instead they come out losers of the fight and maybe, quite possibly, definitely, the game.
What a performance from Origen, put Schalke right back in their place, and they seem to have found their form. Week 4 of the LEC, Origen pick up their 4th win.
Not only did they win this game, but the fashion in which they did so gives you a lot of hope moving forward as an Origen fan. Schalke are no easy opponent. And really, it's what we were expecting out of Origen coming into the season. Before anyone had played on stage, when you just look at the names on the rosters and you think, yeah, these guys are good players. They had good performances last year. This is a team that can perform.
I think this performance was the performance, as you say, that everyone expected the team to have. Like, coming into the split, you looked at the roster, you said Nukeduck, Kold, Mithy, Patrik, and Alphari in the top lane. And you thought, yeah, they're going to perform. You know, they're going to be a strong team from the get-go. And now we're actually starting to see it really come into effect.
Origen in this game as well. What I'm really impressed with Mithy is I just want to give him a cheeky shout out as well, because, you know, we touched, you said this as well with Mickey, where supports kind of go a bit underloved.
Yeah.
So if I can give a little bit of love to Mithy's, he has a tendency of going in. Yeah, and no one really follows him. It doesn't matter whether he's got his team around him to support him up. He'll just go in anyway. He sees the opportunity, and maybe that's a lack of communication, and maybe his team doesn't have full confidence in him. It was a problem that plagued him when he was over in North America. But there are a lot of engages this game. Mithy didn't seem to change as much himself, but it's like, as a team, when Mithy makes these plays, his team was there to follow up.
The coordination was there.
Absolutely.
So much better from them. Mithy didn't even die, nor did Patrik. Nukeduck only with that final death at the end.
Yeah, and Alphari was, throughout most of the game, was a dirty inner on their team.
Yeah.
I know, I'm reporting.
The whole one death that he had. I want to obviously look at the other side of the coin. Schalke really only picked up 2 kills. Both went over to the Pyke. Seemed to just struggle to stop Origen having their game plan. We talked about the Camille as sort of a bridging factor for them towards scaling, but never had the effect that we would have wanted it to.
Yeah, it was... The very early game was fine for Schalke, and then I think as soon as Nukeduck picked up those 2 kills in the bot side of the map, when we had that pause, that was really where it became very hard. Like, Schalke just needed to play, okay, we're behind now, we have to respect Nukeduck. This guy is going to have constant pressure in the side lane. We have to play back. We have to not do anything too silly and get caught out, which was the opposite of what they actually did. And that was the window that Origen needed, and credit to Origen for finding that window, recognizing it, identifying it, and capitalizing.
Very happy to Fisio standing there with his team.
It's so strange seeing him here, but not here.
It is.
You know?
It really is. Yeah, I used to prefer when we didn't see him as much. I'll be honest. LEC fans, we want to hear from you. Who is the key player of the game? Is it Kold, Nukeduck, or Mithy? Hit us up at LOL Esports on Twitter with your pick. Who are you going for, mate? Yeah,
I'm going to say Nukeduck.
Yeah?
Yeah, even though Kold set him up, Mithy also improved. I think Nukeduck really was the flashy guy, so he's got my number.
Okay, well, for more on Origen's win, let's check in with Quickshot and Foxdrop's favorite, their mid laner.
Thank you very much. Joined here by home wrecker Nukeduck. Before we get to that, let's talk about the game. 2-0 this weekend, and you just obliterated Schalke. What happened that allowed OG to win both of your games in such commanding fashion this weekend?
It's just, I think we're just getting better. We had, some problems the first weeks with various things, but our roster is really strong, so I think this is just what we expect.
Now, the game looked very, very simple and clean. Beautiful performance. I think living up to the expectations that Origen had before the split. What was the take on, Schalke's performance? Was this them underperforming and you overperforming? Like, where do you attribute the win?
I think they played fine. Some of their plays failed, but I think when we play like on our highest level, they just can't beat us, even if they play, on their highest level.
One of the questions we were talking about in the cast was, what is more important to make playoffs? Beating the top tier teams or beating the teams at the bottom of the table and, getting into it by stepping on the smaller guys? Which way do you think is better?
I mean, as long as you're in playoffs, then this is what matters. But it's better to prove yourself that you can beat the good teams. But we don't plan to lose to, the bottom teams either. So I guess beating the top teams, yeah.
Okay, very, very good. Very last question before we head over to the post-game with Drakos. A few weeks ago, I proved statistically that because of you and Origen is the reason Deficio broke up with me. I mean, why did you have to be a home wrecker?
I just gave the Deficio what you couldn't give him.
Right, thank you very much, Nukeduck. We're going to head over to Drakos to wrap up the game.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I never knew that what Deficio needed was a dominant Yasuo performance, but that is definitely not something Quickshot ever could have provided. But good on Nukeduck showing up today. Immediately as we jump into this post-game Froskurinn, I think we have to look at the pick and bans because this was I was very excited about these compositions right off the bat because I think there's a lot of high action picks as a normal play-by-play catch. You got a Yasuo, you got a Kennen, you got
They're fun picks. This is fun League of Legends.
There is fun League of Legends happening right now, but obviously it's so much more than that. So take me through. What do you see? What stands out to you?
So the first thing is I really want to gravitate towards Origen's composition and just kind of lay down what it's really good at. The caster said it in game. I'm going to repeat the same thing. It was a big level 6 comp, but more specifically how they play around dragons. And the first thing looking at this, I was like, if that dragon RNG screws Origen, that's going to be a big bummer. And unfortunately, it felt like it did. It was like cloud, mountain, ocean, I think, or maybe ocean, cloud.
Yeah.
If that had been double infernal, this game would have ended so much faster. On the other side for Schalke, a lot of comfort picks. And for me, the high impact pick was that Camille. And I think that's where a lot of their problems stemmed from. Not the pick itself, but the fact that it didn't have the high impact that it really needed to. And that happened for a couple of reasons. One, because Origen did certain things very, very well, but it has to be said, because it would be very disingenuous not to say, Schalke made very massive mistakes here, individual mistakes across the board.
And it's so interesting because we just came off of so many days in a row of praising this team as a well-oiled machine, as always being consistent in finding these opportunities, but it felt like Origen, as you said, they did a lot to shut down a lot of what Memento wanted to do in the early game, and also we did see a lot of small individual mistakes. Abbedagge behind enemy lines for some reason. We're wondering why he's caught out at that wolf camp. We see Upset getting caught out as well. And what impressed me from this point was that Origen, once you gave them that lead, finally showed us kind of the top team that they had been promising us in terms of actually closing the game out.
And I want everyone to do themselves a favor. I was like, how do I grab this replay? How do I show it? There's no way to do it. You just have to go back into the VoD. Go back to about 3 minutes 50 into this VoD. Fast forward, watch it to about 5 minutes into the game and just watch the mini-map because you can see Schalke and Origen just playing the mind games around the vision game. So many times we were contesting control wards, so many times it was trading back and forth, and you can see the pings. And I wish I could just put up the mini-map and kind of like guide you through it, but it just takes too long. But just do yourself a favor and do it because you learn so much about how these teams are communicating and the incredible vision game that Origen played, denying so many opportunities from Memento to try to get things kicked off.
And honestly, it really did feel like once Origen had the ball in their court, that they really did snowball the game, that they really did take off. And so when we look back at some of these excellent picks that get everything started for this team, I would say a little bit of a fearless Alistar play coming in from Mithy on the back end of this one of what could have been a 1v1. And this looks at first like a good Odo escape, but Mithy running in, not afraid to blow everything just to get this kill for the team.
Yeah, and it's the double whammy too. You have to think if this TP had come in earlier from Abbedagge, if they had said, okay, Mithy's probably roaming up, they're going to go for the dive, because it was a great play by Mithy and that TP came in instantly, maybe that doesn't happen there. But Origen's ability to recognize when their composition was strong, to take those initial dragons, to unlock the Alistar from the lane, and then just start rotating their power point around. Like, we always knew that Origen had an execution problem. You know the potential ceiling of these players. This game, you finally got to see that potential recognized because they executed so cleanly.
And that's what you see here is the goal difference in 10. It's a very close game for a very long period of time. 19 at 20, it's that 4K difference coming through, and just the way that they snowballed that lead. They got the mid lane tower, they got the Herald, they got everything on the back of the play, and it just kept coming. And at a certain point, when the Yasuo is getting all the kills, it's just insult to injury because you're already behind, but all of that gold lead is built into this man's hands, and it starts off good here, Froskurinn, and they cancel the Rift Herald, but instantly funny this one gets turned.
Yeah, and it was unfortunately kind of GG at this point, because once Nukeduck has the lead here, I think at this point he was then a 3-0 Yasuo. It meant that the lane assignments for Origen were always going to be in their favor, because there was nothing that anyone could do to compete with Yasuo. It was going to take multiple champions to shut him down. So Origen at that point are saying, okay, we don't even need to go for the Baron unless they give it to us for free. For the next 10 minutes, as long as Yasuo is just in a side lane, we can take whatever we want. Eventually, we'll use this leverage in the side lane to pull Schalke apart, and that's what happened. They couldn't deal with Nukeduck. They eventually got caught out of position. They got caught. It was a free Baron, a free game.
Eventually, they send 3 people to try and deal with Nukeduck, and it loses them another inhibitor, and you can see that desperation coming through. But I think it's no surprise that our key player of the game is Nukeduck. 53% of the votes coming through, and just a huge performance from this guy. Definitely what you want to see from Nukeduck overall. I feel like Origen was kind of dragging its feet from some of their superstar players, but Nukeduck showing up today is a good sign. However, what I want to look at is what this actually means now for the league, Froskurinn, because we've got suddenly Schalke losing, making these individual mistakes, maybe not quite as clean as they thought they were, and on the opposite side, Origen showing that once they do get a lead, that they can dominate even a top team.
I mean, I think it says more for Origen than it necessarily does for Schalke. I think it's really easy for Schalke to go and look at this game and be like, yeah, we probably shouldn't have teleported here and kind of doubled down on our losses. They needed to slow down the pace of the game, and they just individually didn't make the correct plays there. For Origen, though, this is really good news, because finally things are starting to click. And if I don't know if that's, behind scenes, maybe the infrastructure, it's a big change coming from Copenhagen to Berlin, that they finally found kind of a rhythm that works with them, or what it was, but something has snapped for Origen, and we're starting to see what this team was always meant to be.
And I love the confidence coming through in Nukeduck. You heard in the interview with Quickshot how good he was feeling, and I would say maybe even overconfident. Hey, even when we're on form, there's no way these guys can ever go toe-to-toe with us, but that's what you want to hear. And Origen moving up, taking out Schalke is huge. Well, we've got more League of Legends coming up as SK Gaming and Rogue face off after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Just have to be a little bit cautious. Abbedagge pops the blast cone.
Was that his only way out?
Yeah, that's not how you get out of that. Last bird comes out. Brodomel still just running away.
Oh, there's a Herald.
Memento's going to go for it. Oh, he has the channel. He gets it. I believe with the Hexagon made him, he stops it because it silences you for a second. Memento gets into the realm warp. Are they going to lock him up in time? They get the stun off. Memento jumps towards the back of the pit, but the slicing maelstrom locks him up. Already down, secured, just forcing him away. Mithy underneath the tower, but already that's fallen. Puts at the wind wall just to block out any Schalke aggression. Mithy with the engage. Last breath comes out, and Memento is down. Looking for it. There's the lightning rush. Hasn't used the ult yet, though. Abbedagge pops the frozen 2. Mithy gets 1. That's Odoamne down. Now Alphari jumps forward with the proto belt. And Memento falls as well. And Upset's trying to do what he can on the back line, but he's getting locked up in the slicing maelstrom. What a performance from Origen. Puts Schalke right back in their place, and they seem to have found their form. Week 4 of the LEC. Origen pick up their 4th win.